Thank you, Katie. That's a great question. Mental health and well-being is so important in Knowsley, and I think it's fair to say we've got significant issues around mental health in the borough. And as a result of that, it's a priority. It's a priority for me. It's a priority for the council as a whole. It's a priority for the CCG, which is the NHS part, and a priority for the Health and Wellbeing Board, which is the place where key decision makers come together to make decisions about how to improve health and what money to invest. So it is an absolute priority for the borough, and we're working really hard together as a system to try and make sure the right services are in place for the right people at the right time. And actually, we've been in a meeting this afternoon talking exactly about that, and the CCG have got this mental health strategy that they've been developing for about 2 years now, designed to improve this. Having said that, talking about it being a priority and talking about developing a strategy doesn't actually help people if there aren't services out there that people can access. So we in public health, we've got 2 services I think I'd like to mention. We've got one called Kooth, K-O-O-T-H, which provides online and face-to-face counselling for young people. They also provide support for young people around people who may be engaging in self-harming behaviour. And we also commission Listening Ear to provide a service called the Butterflies Project, which is a service that supports young people after bereavement or loss. We have got services in place. However, if people don't know those services are in place and they don't know how to access them and they don't know their availability, then they're not really helping, are they? And so one of the things we want to work on quite hard next is making sure the information about these services is out there, and so that young people in Knowsley absolutely know what services are available to them and how to access them. And we're working closely with Kooth, with the schools, and with the Youth Mutual to make sure you've all got that information. Okay.
Can I just do a test? Because Matt's talking about what services there are for mental health. Can you put your hand up if you would know what services are out there? So for very, very few of us, really. So I think that's a message back in terms of, publicising those services, because you ought to know what's out there, even if not for yourself or for other people. So I'm going to bring in George Howth MP.
Thanks for that. And thanks. It's a really important question. That in my work as an MP, I deal with hundreds and hundreds of people who've got problems. And I'm increasingly finding that people who come to my surgeries, email me, contact my office in some other way, are struggling with a mental health problem. There's just 2 points I want to make. The first one is that we as a society, whether we're young or old or in the middle, have got to stop stigmatising mental health in this country. And I'll give you one really good example of that. And it mostly affects young women, but it also affects some young men as well. And that is this whole thing about body image. I think the amount of damage it does to people when they're stigmatised because they're not quite the shape that you would want to be for Vogue magazine has got to stop. And the fashion industry, politicians, everyone has to play a part in that. But also, young people themselves have got to play a part in that. Because sometimes we'll say something that's intended to be a joke to somebody who's not quite the regular shape, and it will cause them an incredible amount of anguish, and it could lead to them having mental health problems themselves. The second point I want to make, and it leads on from that, is we have to be incredibly careful about the language that we use. We think sometimes, when we're skitting people in school or in some other setting, that it's funny to pick on some characteristic. It might be the way they talk, it might be the way they look, it might be anything about them, the way they dress, and we think it's funny to make fun of that. But that can cause incredibly damaging effects on young people. So the point I want to make is that we all have a responsibility not to add to people's mental health problems, but try to sympathise and help them with them.
Thank you. Did Sue want to come in?
Could I just come in on that, Katie? Katie, I think that was a really, really good question. And I think mental health is something that can affect so many people in so many different ways. I think it's really sad that a lot of young people, not just here, but all over the borough, don't know who to go to. If you know, any of you know anyone who has mental health problems or is young or is self-harming or anything like that at all, you can always speak to someone in school in confidence, you know. If you go to somebody in school, they'll help you with it. Or you can also speak to your local counsellors. You've all got counsellors in your wards. I don't know whether you know them or not, but I'm sure your mums and dads or your parents, families and friends will know them. You can also go to them. So don't feel that if you have problems with image or self-harming or anything like that, it's anything you've got to deal with on your own, because there is always someone out there who will listen to you and point you in the right direction. So Katie, I think that was a brilliant question. Thank you.
And I think, Nigel, did you want
Yeah,
to...
thank you. I was just going to add, just to evidence how important it is. So I work for Barclays, and you can imagine how many customers we have across Merseyside. But every member of staff now receive training on supporting mental health in terms of the customers that we have. And that's a huge, obviously, PLC organisation, understanding the cross-section of needs out there, dealing with disability, dealing with mental health, dealing with deafness in customers who come into the branches. So just evidences the importance being played by huge organisations going forward. And as has been said, I think we underestimate the level of people out there who need that level of support. So it really evidences that. So it's a great question. Thank you.